it saw me, and it was alive, and it looked at me. And as I righted myself and stood on my feet, I almost collapsed. I screamed. I went into a scream that I didn't even know it was me screaming. I could hear somebody screaming, but I didn't know it was me. And, um, whoa, whoa, whoa.
The following video contains an interview with Mary Stuart. For generations, her family has experienced unexplained and disturbing paranormal activity, ranging from seemingly friendly spirits to dark, malevolent entities. The accounts you're about to hear are Mary's own, shared as truthfully as she remembers them. Some of these stories are deeply unsettling. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
My name's Terri Weiss, and this is my mother, Mary Stuart. And she's had a lifetime of paranormal events and houses we've lived in, lots of creepy things going on, and we're just trying to document some of that. And we're going to try to go back doing it house by house.
Incrementally.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I was born in Deloge, Missouri, actually, at an apartment.
What year were you born?
In 1941, May. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go back a bit, because this kind of things like this have been happening in our family ever since years before I was born. Back home, okay, when my grandfather passed away in Texas, we had a big snow, and my mom and dad lived out in the country near Bonne Terre, not far outside East Bonne Terre. And they had a farm. And at 5 in the morning, around 5 in the morning, there was a rap at the door, a very loud, knock. And so it woke him up, and my dad said, "I'm coming." He said, "Just a minute." And he was throwing his trousers on. So he put his pants on fast as he could, and he went to the door. It had snowed that night, almost all night. The porch was covered in snow, the yard. He opened the door, and there was no tracks. The moon was still out and on the snow, and there was no tracks anywhere on the porch or in the yard. Nothing was stirring. It was as quiet as a mouse, and there wasn't anybody. So he came back in, and his wife said, my stepmom at that time, who was it? And he said, "I don't like it. I don't like it." He said, "I guess we'll hear something today, maybe." And so he went in the kitchen and put some coffee on. And he said, about an hour later, a rider come riding up the lane with a telegram. And he opens up the telegram, and it said, at exactly 5, and it gave the time of death, "Your father passed away in Canadian, Texas." That was the boys. They had made it to a place where they could send a telegram, and they sent it back and knew it would get delivered out to the house to let him know that he'd passed. And the time of death was exactly, because my dad looked at the clock, and he said, "We'll hear something." And they did, and it matched.
Wow.
So somehow my grandfather,
Contacted them, maybe.
who else would rap on the door and there not be anybody there? Yeah. He knew my dad would put 2 and 2 together, with the time element and all. Mm-hmm. And that was my grandfather saying goodbye to one of his favorite sons.
Wow.
So we had that happen, and then fast forward well, oh my God. My mom wound up living there after I left home and got married, and my dad had passed away when I was 13, and then I got married when I was 16 and lived in the city. And my mom was there, and she let my two brothers, Alvin and Dennis, live with her because she didn't want to be lonely, and they needed a place, so they lived there still. And so, but they didn't always do exactly like Mom wanted them to do, or she'd call them for a meal, and they might not come for 5 or 10 minutes till they got done whatever they was interested in. And one evening like that, there was nobody home but her and Denny, and he was out working on the car. And so she got the meal done, and she went to the front door, and she hollered, "Denny, come and eat." And he hollered back something, okay, and so she went on in and sat down to eat herself, and she thought, well, what's keeping him? And so she got a little mad, perturbed that he didn't come on in and eat. So she thought, I'm going to see what he's doing out there. So she goes out there, and the car was parked very near the house. And so she went up to the car. She didn't see Denny. She opened the car door, and she saw something in the car.
I remember
something
this.
dark. And she opened up the car door to tell Denny off. And she said, a cat that had a head as big as a human's head in the passenger seat, and it turned and looked at her eyeball to eyeball.
Like a demon or something.
Yeah, like a demon. But she said it had cat's eyes, yellow up and down eyeballs, and didn't seem friendly at all.
So what you do? She freak out and
She screamed and came running into the house. And when she got in the house, Denny was in the house. And she said, she couldn't even talk really at first. It was so. And he said, what's all the yelling about? Like, why? But she never forgot it. She didn't like cats after that.
I can see why. I remember that.
Yeah, that happened. And then Mom wound up in her 80s. She just turned 80, and she had a stroke. And she was paralyzed from the waist down. And so we couldn't talk her into leaving and coming and living with Evelyn or me, either one of the sisters. And I tried, and Patty tried, my younger sister. And Mom kept saying over and over, no, Daddy bought this house for me and the kids, and I'm not leaving it. I'm going to be here till I die. And so we had her bed set up in the right-hand front room. There was 2 front rooms and 2 back rooms. It was like a cracker box, 4 rooms. And her bed was by the window in the front room. Then there was a doorway across the room from that, and then you went into the kitchen, and the sink was up against the back wall leading to the backyard. And there was a window here and a window there, corner windows. So one day I was down there. We'd always go down and visit Mom as often as we could, and every week definitely, and sometimes more. And so I was in the kitchen doing dishes. My brother Dennis and
I was with you on that.
and Patty and Terri was there. I brought Terri with me. And they were talking to Mom at the side of her bed, and chit-chatting. And suddenly the loudest boom I've ever heard inside a house went off. It sounded like a gun going off, even louder, because there was a percussion about it, almost like a bomb going off. And so my back is turned to the rest of the house because I'm facing the sink and doing dishes. And the minute it happened, I swung around, and just in time to see on the wall behind, across the tables here, and then the wall of the kitchen, and then the doorway going into Mom's room. Okay, but that wall of the kitchen was covered with cabinets, and they went all, way up, and all of our dishes and glassware and everything was in there. Well, when that bomb went off, that boom like that, or it just reverberated. Every dish in that cabinet, every door flew open at the same time, and every dish piled out and into the floor. And the side of the room, if you're going down past the cabinets and going to the left in the corner, every room in that house had a chimney that all the rooms shared. It was right in the middle of the cracker box. And so, because you could put a stove in any room that you wanted as long as it was in that corner. Well, about, I don't know, 6 foot up on the wall in that area, there would be like a cap lifter, I want to say.
Looked like a paper plate.
Like it looked like a
Similar.
paper plate, but it was metal, and it had a painting on it. Somebody had painted every one of them, with a scene. That had, at the same moment the dishes come flying out and the boom happened, that flew out of the wall, and onto the floor. And I was in shock. I really didn't know what to make of anything. And I ran to the door of the bedroom and I said, "What did you do?" And they're at the same time saying to me, "What did you do?" And they said, "We didn't do nothing. We're just sitting here talking to Mom." And I said, "Oh my God," And I looked, and the cover of the chimney from that room was also in the floor. And they came in and they said, we started picking up the plates and the cups. Nothing broke. That is insane. On a hardwood floor, something falls from 6 to 8 feet up, and nothing breaks out of a whole set of dishes. Nothing broke. That was unbelievable, and I know nobody believes it, but
I was there, I believe it.
Phenomenal. Yeah, Terri can verify. There was nothing broke.
It was scary.
I mean, I was trembling when I picked that stuff up and set it on the table because Mom was asking what broke, and I told her nothing, and we was glad that nothing broke.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
like what?
How does that happen? I mean,
it was weird.
Yeah, that was beyond weird to me. There's just never going to be an explanation for something like that.
Go to the Lucas farm now.
Huh?
The Lucas farm. The Lucas farm up on the hill.
The Lucas farm. Oh my God. Okay. Well, eventually we moved to the Lucas farm on P Highway and near Festus. And the Lucas farm was built in the style of a southern mansion. It had the really wide concrete steps going up in a half circle in the front, and it had a hallway. When you opened the front door, that you were in a hallway that was, you could have made 3 rooms out of the hallway. It was very wide, and then it had rooms on both sides, upstairs and downstairs. So
yeah, 5 bedrooms upstairs. That's why we got it.
Yeah,
we had a big family.
5 bedrooms upstairs. Anyway, my son Jerry, he went out the back door one day. At the end of the hall was the door going to the back yard, and he goes out the door and slammed the door behind him, of course, and there was a transom up over the front door and the back door.
Mm-hmm.
And this transom had a piece of glass the width of the door and about maybe, 20 inches high.
Every bedroom had that.
Every bedroom had a transom over the door. And he goes out the back door, walks straight into the yard, and right behind, it missed him by seconds. It hit, the transom came out and hit the concrete and busted all up. But he said he felt the wind of it right behind him. It was almost like it was trying to hit him. And at the same time, he was having these nightmares. And he was the only one out of all 6 kids we had. All 7 kids were there at that time.
Yeah.
And none of them was having bad dreams except Jerry. And it was a recurring nightmare that he would have. And this old elderly woman was pursuing him and trying to trap him, trying to kill him. And she had something, a knife or something in her hand she was going to kill him with. And maybe it was a hatchet. Anyway, he got to where he didn't even like going to sleep at night because he was afraid he'd dream that dream again. It was very frightening. And about that time, he came in my bedroom. This is the uncanny part of it. We were still in bed one morning. I guess it was a Saturday, and he wanted to ask permission to do something, ride his bike outside or something. And he was about 5 years old at that time. And we said no, whatever it was. Go back to bed, and Mom will be getting up in a little bit. And he walked back out of the bedroom, and he didn't even shut the door behind him or anything. He didn't even, there was no slam, no nothing. And as soon as he stepped into that hallway through that door, the transom came out and came down and crashed on the floor right behind him. And when he told me how close it was, the back door, the way it happened, I kind of halfway didn't believe him. I thought, you know.
So this is the second one that came down?
And it was, both times it was Jerry. You know, I had other kids that came in and out of my bedroom. Why would it be always him, you know?
I was the only one that had a bedroom upstairs.
Yeah.
And nothing,
the rest of them slept downstairs. Yeah. And so that was telling. I mean, I started to think, I don't trust this house. And I'm starting to trust what he's talking about in his having those bad dreams, because why him, you know? Made no sense. And then, so we, there was another thing. At the top of the stairs, there was a sheet of plywood that you could pull over and close off the upstairs.
During the winter. In
the winter time, and then all you had to heat was the downstairs. And Terri was staying, I think you were staying with Aunt Allie and Uncle Lloyd anyway.
My bedroom got moved down.
Your bedroom got moved downstairs.
In the hall.
Yeah, in the fall.
In the hall.
Yeah, in the
downstairs.
Hall. So we had a phone, and we had it in the kitchen. Well, the phone would ring, and there was an old phone upstairs that wasn't even connected. It was a dial phone, and it wasn't even connected. I don't think we'd ever used that phone at all. And it probably was there when we moved there. Anyway, I'd be downstairs doing something, and the phone would ring upstairs. You know, and by the time I got the wooden plywood pulled away from the cover, so I could get upstairs to get it, it would stop ringing.
Yeah, I kind of remember that, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing was, we moved.
And you went back to clean.
And yes, and I wanted to get my deposit back. So I worked at Carter Carburetor at the time, and I was driving back and forth. So this was on a Friday night, I believe, and I did my best to get it all done. They said have it done by Saturday because they wanted that key back. And I was looking forward to getting my deposit back. So I brought a mop and broom and some cloths and everything I thought I needed, and I swept everything downstairs, and I came to that stairway going upstairs, and somebody had removed I guess they had to move some furniture from up there, and they had left it open at the top. The plywood wasn't on there, and so I thought, boy, these stairs, they need swept down. I know they need it swept. But I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go up there at all. But I thought, be an adult. And so I took my broom and I went to the top stair and I started sweeping. And I didn't look right or left. I just swept the stairs. Kept moving down the stairs slowly, one at a time. I got to the bottom step, and I guess it's human nature, but I had to glance up. And when I did, a shadow went over from one side of the stairwell to the other up on the landing. And I mean, I saw it with my own eyes. I couldn't, it was like somebody that had a black cloak had swiftly just gone across there, right in front of my eyes. And I froze. My heart like to jumped out of my body. I grabbed that broom and pail and I ran the hell out of there, and I didn't do any mopping. That was it. And I threw that stuff in the car and bid farewell to that house. And we had only been moved out of there for about a year, and that house burnt to the ground. They rented it to somebody else. And
Tell them what the firemen said. They had chickens or something on that little porch, and that's what caught the house on fire.
Right.
So when the firemen, well, you were at a yard sale, and these people mentioned that they lived in the Lucas farm. You
right.
talking about the Lucas farm.
Yeah.
And tell them what they said about the house.
And they said when they couldn't put the fire out, and of course the house burnt to the ground. And they said some weird screaming sounds came out.
They kept asking these people, are you sure there's no one else
Are
in
you
the
sure there's
house?
no one else in there? And we found out before I even moved from there that my neighbor told me, who owned the house that we rented from, and once we told them we were moving, I guess they didn't mind telling us everything. They said they had moved there. His dad had moved there, his family from Tennessee, I believe it was, by covered wagon. And they bought that land and built those houses. And then when the parents passed away, there was two brothers that stayed in the house that we rented, and one of them hung himself in the upstairs bedroom that was Terry's bedroom.
I thought it was the daughter, like Hallie. She got pregnant. She was a little touched in the head. And
well,
got
yeah,
pregnant.
they had a daughter, and she had gotten pregnant, but she didn't kill herself.
Oh.
But her brother hung himself in the last room over, and that would have been your bedroom.
No, it was across the hall.
Across the hall?
Trust me, I know this. It was the middle bedroom across the hall, because there was a big hole in the ceiling where all the stuff had come down.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But
it was a creepy house.
Yeah, it was an amazing house, but
yeah.
Unfortunately,
not quite the Gone
creepy.
with the Wind house that you described it as being. I was a little disappointed when I got down there. But it was a cool house, really big. Okay, so let's go to the Russell house in town.
Oh,
with the oval door.
With the big red door. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We lived in a house on Russell Street, and we had some things happen. Terri lost her jewelry one day. Well, she didn't lose it. She was going to lay out and get a suntan in the front yard. So she took all her jewelry off. She didn't have a lot of jewelry, but her necklace was
Well, this was all stuff Chris had gotten me. It was gold.
gold
Stuff
necklace
Chris had
and
got me
a
for
ring and some stuff.
Christmas, birthday, 2 or 3 necklaces,
Uh-huh.
bracelets, and all that.
So Terri always made her bed. And her room was always
Spick and
neat.
span.
Yeah, she's a neat Nick. And so to lay out, she took off all of her jewelry and she laid it right in the middle of the bed, thinking nobody will bother this because nobody ever comes up here. And so she goes out and lays out for a little bit. And when she went to get dressed, she went to her room and looked, and her jewelry was all gone. There was nothing there. And she went back down and she looked in the yard and she thought, maybe I just thought I left it on the bed. Maybe it's in the yard where I laid. So she goes out there and looks all over where she'd been in, and there was no jewelry. So
And I'm
she asked
panicking by now.
everybody, and we said, no, Terri, we thought she was daft or something because she didn't usually, lose things. And so she pitched a little bit of a fit. Somebody had to have gotten it. I remember specifically, I laid it right on the bedspread. So to be sure that, nothing, she's not seeing things, she went up and took the bedspread off the bed and shook it out. She took the other sheet, shook it out. Nothing anywhere. She looked all over her dresser and everywhere, and it wasn't that her jewelry
I
wasn't
made
there.
multiple trips to the yard and up to my
Yeah,
room.
both
Yeah.
trips. So she made her bed back and came downstairs, and she wasn't very happy. And then, I don't know, in a little bit, though, she eventually went back up. And when she went back up, I guess it was to go to bed that night.
No, I was still looking for my jewelry.
Oh, you were still looking for it. But she goes back up, and it's not in the center of the bed, but it's near the end of the bed, and it's laid out in rows like this, straight little rows of the necklace, the bracelet. It's all there. And like somebody is getting a big joke out of it. You know what I mean?
Like a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeist.
Yeah, they do that. They move your stuff.
And then it got to be prom night, and Angie was there, and Clay Kapler, and Chris, and Terri, and they were all going together to prom. And
Well, before that, things had started happening in the house, and we kept telling Dad something's
yeah,
ghostly in this house, and he said, "Oh, you guys are nuts. I don't believe in that stuff."
yeah.
And we kept hearing knocks on the door, and there wouldn't be anybody there. So go ahead.
Well, anyway, they got ready to leave, though, and they wanted to take some pictures before they left. So, we stood them in front of the couch, and we took pictures and everything. And then they said, well, that's it, let's go. And so Clay was standing there with his hand on the doorknob. He'd been waiting to open it so they could all go out. And there was a knock on the door, real loud.
3 times.
Everybody heard it, knock, knock, knock. And Clay automatically, just as soon as it knocked, he opened the door. And there was nobody there. And he stepped out and looked around, and he said, there isn't anybody here. And we said, oh, there's got to be. And so him and Chris Halsey walked around the building all the way to the backyard, looking up and down the alley, and nothing, no cars, no people, nobody was on that block.
And Dad was sitting there in his easy chair and saw the whole thing happen. And I looked at him and I said, well, now are you a believer? And he was speechless. He didn't know what to say.
Yeah,
he saw it.
Your grandpa did not know what to say that day.
And then I worked at KFC and got home early.
Yeah.
I had to go to the bathroom really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And there was only one bathroom upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? You were downstairs cooking? And I ran in and I said, Mom, whoever's up there, tell them to hurry up. I'm about to wet my pants. You said, well, there's nobody in the house but me and you. I said, I'm telling you, someone's up there. So you went upstairs with me, and the bathroom door was locked and water was running.
Yeah.
So you used the key to get in, and we
Yep.
opened it, and the water was running, but there was no one there. It
No
was
one there.
locked from the inside.
And nobody had been there. Weird. Really, that was very weird.
Let's see. Where to next? You want to go to Natalie and the ball?
The what?
On the house that they turned into a golf course. You were getting ready for work, and Natalie saw that.
Oh, that's the biggie.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not the biggest, but it's a big.
I think it is.
Okay.
I think it
is pretty cool.
definitely is.
Go ahead.
When I worked at the nuclear plant and I had to be there at 7 in the morning, I would set the alarm for like 5:30 and get up and roll my hair, whatever I had to do, and then get ready for work and leave and be over there by 7. So I get up early, and the kids, we had a couch that led out into a bed, and we had company that night. One of the cousins stayed all night, Sean, and so the couch was let out, and I let the girls sleep on that bed, and I let the boys sleep back in Denise's room because she wasn't home that night. So anyway, I get up, and I was getting ready, and Natalie woke up. And when she woke up, there was an arch that led to the dining room. And you could see everything in the dining room right through the arch, mostly. It was a really big archway. And so she is all excited and giggly and laughing. And I said, "What are you laughing at?" And
this is like 5 in the morning?
Yeah. And she said, "That." And she pointed. And I looked in the dining room, and it looked exactly like it did the night before. No, wasn't nobody in there, nothing. And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "That thing there above on the table, that ball on the table." And I looked, and I said, "There ain't no ball on that table." And she said, "Oh, yes, there is, and it's changing colors, and it's so beautiful." And she said, "It's moving." And Natalie was about, what, 5?
Oh, no, she was about 7.
7?
Yeah.
And Crystal was about 5, 5.5. And so Crystal was still asleep, and Natalie kept going on about it and how pretty it was and everything.
It was getting bigger and then smaller.
Yeah, she said, "It's
size.
getting bigger, it's getting bigger." And she was friendly about it. She wasn't afraid of it at all. And I almost have to believe she was communicating with it in some way, back and forth. But anyway, I looked several times, and there just wasn't anything in the dining room. It was partially dark and partially just the light coming from the living room. And so I had to get ready. So I went ahead and I went in the bathroom and taking the rollers out of my hair and stuff. And I came back, and Natalie had woken up Crystal. I believe she woke her up because she wanted her to see it. And so she's still going on about it. And I said to Crystal, "Crystal, do you see anything in the dining room?" And she looked, and she said, "No." And I said, "Nothing unusual?" "No." And Natalie said, "Oh, you do too. You see it right there above the dining room table. You see it." And they almost got into it over it because Crystal said, "No, I don't see it. You know, what are you talking about? There ain't nothing in there." And my instincts kind of went a little, at that point, and I thought, well, that's weird that one sees something and the other don't.
Yeah, because Natalie didn't make stuff up.
No, and Natalie was the kind of child that she never made anything up. That she wasn't a trickster at all. Never did go out of her way like that. And so I knew she was seeing something, but obviously I couldn't see it. So I thought, I wonder if I could feel it. So I said, I'm going in there. I'm going to find out what you're talking about. So I walked up to the table, alongside the table. It was a big round table. And I put my hand, I said, right here is it? And when my hand was about to the middle of the table, Natalie let out a shriek and she started crying and she said, no, Mama, don't touch it. Don't touch it. And so at that point, I didn't want her crying, and so I said, okay, I've got to get ready anyway. I got to go to work. So I went in the bathroom, sprayed my hair, and while I was fidgeting with my hair, I said to Natalie, I said, what's it doing? Is it still in there? What's it doing now? And she giggled and she said, it bumped down to the floor and it followed you in the bathroom. And I about dropped my hairbrush, I swear. I got the hell out of there. And I said, so the boys woke up. They heard the commotion from the next bedroom, and they wanted to know what was going on. And I asked them, is there anything unusual in there, a light of any kind? And they go, no. And so Natalie said that it went in, when they came out of the bedroom, that it went in the bedroom. So when John heard that, he said, we'll just check this out scientifically. Come on, Sean. So they go in, they're going to prove, Natalie's making things up or something. So they go in their bedroom, and there was nothing in there. And they walk up to the closet door, and they opened up the closet door, and a blast of icy air hit them right in the face, and they jump back, and they come tearing out of the bedroom. Mm-hmm. And they said, I don't know what is wrong with this house, but there was something in that closet. He said, they was looking at each other. Did you feel that? And yeah, I felt it. And so I had to leave. I asked Natalie where it was, and she said it went back. It came back and went above the table. And so I had to leave, and that was the hardest thing I ever did, was going to work that day. But I knew we needed the money, and I knew that they don't hold with last-minute cancellations at the nuclear plant. Mm-hmm. And so, so I left. I kissed my kids and walked out and got in the car and drove away. And as soon as I got to work, I got on the phone in the hallway at work, and I called home. And I talked to, I had them put Natalie on the phone. And I said, where's the ball now, Natalie? Is it still there? And she said, no, Mama. She said, after you left, it went from window to window to window, from the back dining room, all the dining room windows, and the living room window, and then it came back the other way and was looking out each window. And she said then it got to the kitchen, and she said it went right on down the stairs, bumped down the stairs, and went out through the kitchen window and disappeared. And that's the last we saw of it. And she was describing this ball, like this big around, and it would get a little smaller, and then it'd get even bigger. Mm-hmm. And it was changing shapes, changing colors.
Yep, I remember that.
Yep.
Okay, unless you can think of something else off the top of your head, do you want to go to the most terrifying thing that you've ever encountered? Unless you can think of something else.
No. The most terrifying thing that ever happened was when I was about 8 years old in the backyard, a front yard.
House you grew up in.
Yeah. Pardon me. My two brothers and I, my two younger brothers and I, was playing tag in the front yard. And Mom and Dad were home, They were in the house, and it was late in the evening, but the sun hadn't set yet. And so there was a tree on either side of there was a sidewalk come from the outer sidewalk by the road. There was a sidewalk that came up the middle of our yard into our front steps. And on the section on the right-hand side, there was a big tree and then a smaller tree on the left side. And it was an oak tree. Yeah, I'm sorry. It was a maple tree. They were both maples. And from the tree in the front yard, you could see past the house. The tree on the left side, you could see past the house and all the way up to the barn. So anyway, we were playing tag, and we'd been playing for an hour or so. I mean, we were really going at it and laughing our heads off, because they couldn't catch me. And I loved being it and running from them, you know. So my brothers were hot on my tail and about to tag me, and the base was the tree on the left-hand side. So I ran past it, threw out my right arm, grabbed the tree, and swung around the tree to stop myself, because I didn't want to get hurt and hit the tree. I was going too fast. So I did that. I threw my hand out, grabbed the tree, and swung around. And when I swung around, I saw something. It standing in the, well, I say standing, it was in the path that went from our backyard all the way up past the garden and all the way up to the barn. So I couldn't figure out what it was, and my head was down. I had swung around low to the ground, and I went to right myself, and as my head came up and I righted myself, I realized it wasn't what I could even imagine it was. It was something else. It was humanish, but not human. It had eyes, but not our eyes. It had red eyes. And they weren't just red like plastic eyes or something like that. It was live. Whatever it was alive. And it looked like a skeleton. The head of it looked like a skeleton that had big holes for eyes, and like someone had taken two red embers out of a fire and set them in the sockets. That's what it looked like. And the embers glowed on and off, in and out, like a fire ember in a flame.
What was it wearing?
Like if you're burning wood.
Yeah.
And it happened so fast. It was instant. And it had a robe over its head, and was wearing some kind of a long robe. And it seemed to be like silk, because the wind was lightly blowing, and I could see the material moving over it, hanging over its hands, but moving in the wind a little bit. And worse than that, it saw me.
Was it floating or on the ground?
It was floating. It was too high up above the ground not to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have had legs 4 foot tall, and nothing has legs that tall. So anyway, it saw me, and it was alive, and it looked at me. And as I righted myself and stood on my feet, I almost collapsed. I screamed. I went into a scream that I didn't even know it was me screaming. I could hear somebody screaming, but I didn't know it was me. And whoa. I got some kind of a communication, but whatever it is, I can't remember what it was. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. But it was like I thought it was going to extinguish me any second. Any second. It was not there to do good. I just knew that. I don't know how I knew it, but it was like I was going to get extinguished. And what happened was I went into there's a term for it, but I'm not sure what it is.
Screaming fit?
Huh?
Screaming fit or shock?
They call it this, when someone is so frightened that they lose control of their body. It's called the screaming memes. And you scream, and you're bouncing up and down. Your feet don't know what your brain doesn't tell your feet to do it, but you're so scared that your body is just reacting like you're bouncing a rubber ball up and down, up and down. And I was jumping on the ground, up and down, screaming bloody murder, and I couldn't move. That's why I was so paralyzed with fear. I couldn't run away. That fight or flight thing kicked in, but I couldn't run. I had no body control to run, and I'm just screaming and jumping up and down, and I locked eyes with it, and I was that frightened. If I'd have stayed in that state very long, my heart wouldn't have took it. I would have been dead on the ground, and I know that. But I had the fear that thing, whatever it is, it's not here for good. It wants you, or it's going to kill you on the spot, and I didn't know which. And that's how it was. And scared the hell out of my brothers. And the oldest one, Marvin, he went tearing in the house, made my dad come out there. And my dad come running, and I'm still out by the tree, just jumping up and down, just can't control anything. And so my dad got me and brought me over to the steps, and he hauled off and slapped me so hard. I'd never in my life been slapped like that. But it was almost like he hit me with his fist, but it wasn't his fist, it was his open hand. And it brought me out of the shock. But even when I come out of the shock, I was terrified beyond belief. I mean, I had full memory of what had just happened. And I jumped in my dad's arms. I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I hadn't done that ever, I don't think, since I was a baby. And I just jumped in his arms and locked around his head, and I thought, take me in the house. That's what I was thinking. Let's go in the house. Get me in the house. But he didn't. He said, I want to know what's going on out here. And my brother Marvin said, she saw something. She saw something. And he said, where? And he said, over by that tree. So my dad didn't put me down. He kept me, and he walked over to the tree, and he said, now where? And they said, up there. She saw something up at the house, past the house. And so my dad had me in his arms, and I'm screaming, no, Daddy, don't go up there, don't go out there, don't, no. And I was just that terrified that my dad would be extinguished, and both of us. And so my dad brought me back to the stairs, and he said, run in the house and stay in the house. You boys get in the house. Don't nobody come out here. So he grabbed up ball bat or something, and he went around the house immediately and up into the backyard and followed that path all the way up to the barn, opened up the barn door, nothing in there. He even went to the neighbors across the alley to the other house and knocked on their door and asked them if they seen anything. Does anybody see anything walking around here? Anybody walking around here? Anything at all? Nope, nobody's seen anything. You know, he didn't stop to even tell them what was going on or anything. And it totally vanished, and it never came back. But I was never able to forget it. It wasn't of this earth. That was
Right.
That I do know to be a fact. It wasn't. It was too bizarre. And when I got a little older, though, and I saw comic books and I saw the Grim Reaper, that's the closest thing I can tell you, because it had a nose, but it didn't have a nose. It had a nose, but it was like somebody chopped off the whole end of its nose. So it was just like two
Bones.
bones, sockets, like a
Mm.
sockets there, and its eyes were. It didn't have regular eyeballs at all. It had the framework for an eyeball, but its eyes were embers, something that was like it was talking with its eyes or something. It's strange, and all my growing up years, I kept thinking, why me? Why did I see that? And I don't hear any other kids ever saying they saw anything strange like that. And I started listening to radio and then TV and waiting to hear that somebody saw something similar to what I saw that scared them really bad, like it scared me. And I never came up with any match. And I can't be the only one. This is a big earth,
Yeah.
big.
Right.
So that I want to get hypnotized and regress back to that day. And I'm not going to tell the hypnotist anything about it. I don't want him, I don't want anybody that hypnotizes me leading me into something.
Right. Right.
But if I could go back and relive that, now that I have had a lot of research
You sure you want to do
behind
that?
me, I could probably identify more what it was about, and if there was any kind of communication, maybe that would come back. It was so ugly, but it wasn't the ugliness that scared me. I've seen ugly before, deformed things in people, but no, it was the eyes. It was, and its hands. It had real long fingers that, like that robe was halfway covering its hands and loose in the wind. It draped underneath and was kind of blowing behind its fingers. But it had really long fingers, and it wasn't of this earth, I can tell you that. It maybe from a different dimension but why my backyard? It was just a plain old backyard where the garden spot.
I don't know.
Not,
I don't know. It's unexplainable.
no, and I really gave up trying to explain it, but I would love to hear if anybody else had a experience like that. We could compare notes. At least I wouldn't be the only one.
Right. Well, that's probably a wrap up for now, unless we can come up with more at another time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll start making a list of mine too.
Oh, yes. Terry's got some experiences. You want to? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hers are even more interesting than mine.
I don't know about that. I don't know if I could top that one. But we'll have to do that another night. I'll make my notes. They're definitely some crazy stuff.
And there was and he didn't see it. Marvin didn't, because after I screamed, the boys backed off. They didn't want to see whatever I was looking at, for sure.
And it could have been for your eyes only,
Yeah. But Daddy run them in the house, too. But they know what happened. They was there. They witnessed me screaming and bouncing like a rubber ball, and Daddy having to slap me broadside to bring me out of it. And when Daddy walked back in the house, I remember my mom said, "What happened?" And my little brother said she saw something. And Daddy looked at Mom real quietly, and he said, "I don't know what she saw, but she saw something." He believed he knew I wasn't making that up. You can't make that up.
Right, right. But did you describe it to him after you calmed down?
Yeah, I told him what it looked like, and he's a God-fearing Christian, But still, he knew that I I had seen it. He couldn't deny it.
Mm-hmm. Well, this will have to be continued. If you think of anything else.
If I think of anything, I'll
Yeah.
jot it down.
Yeah. Because I'm sure there's more.
Oh, there is. I'm just hitting the highlights, seem like. I can tell you a story that was told to me by a man named Phil McCarran that used to
Oh,
temporarily live with us when
that's a good one too.
he was a friend of my dad's, and they worked together doing carpenter work with my uncle up in Centralia. And he lived there in Flat River area. His family was in the Flat River area. He was an older man, not as old as my dad, but older man. And anyway, he stayed with us from time to time when he needed to, a weekend or just a day or two. And he played guitar, and he could sing a little bit. I mean, he wasn't like movie star type or anything like that, but he played guitar, and I loved guitar music. And we used to sit around and listen to him in the evenings. It was entertaining. But he could tell stories, and he told us a story. And you could tell by the way his eyebrows went up, and literally made his hair stand on end. I mean, he hated telling it, but he couldn't help himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that back in the 30s, when everybody was broke and they had that crash and nobody had any money, he used to travel.
Like the Depression?
In the Depression.
Okay.
He used to travel and get on those trains, and they'd ride the trains, and then they'd stop wherever they thought they could find some work, or or raid a farmer's field or something, get something to eat. Well, he said they were camped out, 4 or 5 of them, around a fire one night, going to catch the morning train kind of thing. And he said he had to go to the bathroom. So he gets up and walks into the woods a little piece, go behind a big tree. And he said the devil appeared to him right when he was
relieving himself.
Yes. And boy, he would slow down though, and you could tell that it was really traumatic for him to even tell it. And he said he had horns and a tail, and he said he only said 2 words to Phil. He said, "You're mine."
You're mine.
Yeah.
And
those are words you don't want to hear from the devil.
I know. And Phil, he drank when he got paid. If he worked and got paid any money, he'd always get a little fifth of whiskey, a little small bottle of whiskey. And I think he had a guilty conscience about that. And he didn't go to church, but he was a good man. And but he said, the devil said, "You're mine." And he said, I tore out of there. He said, I hardly pulled my pants up. He said, I just got back to that fire as fast as I could. And I said, "Did you tell the other campers what you saw?" And he said, "No," but he said, "I didn't never do that again and walk away from a fire where there's people." He said that just gave the devil he couldn't resist talking to me. And I believe him.
There was only
it's hard to make stuff like that up.
Well, when I sold Kirby's door to door, that short time when we came back from Florida, we moved back from Florida, and I sold Kirby's door to door. Well, Charlie forgot me at this house. He was off helping other people, and so I was at this couple's house for maybe 3 hours.
3 hours?
I had already demoed their carpet, did everything, and we were just sitting there talking. And she said, I guess I'm just easy to talk to, I don't know, but she said, I'm going to tell you something that we don't tell very many people. And they were Christians. And she said that her and her husband, when they were younger, and became Christians, you know, got into church. And she said one night they were in the dining room, I think, and she said, out of the bedroom walks the devil, like horns the whole bit.
Yeah.
Red eyes, tail, just like this guy described it. And it was huge. She said it was really big. And it walks up a few feet from him, and it looked at her husband and said, I forgot her name, Karen or something like that. She's mine.
She's mine.
He claimed him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And she said the only thing we can figure out is that he was testing us, our religion. Like, is God going to save you? You know, one of those things. But anyway, she said, we don't tell people that because they think we're crazy, you know?
Well, how did they make him go away?
That I think she said it just walked back out. Same way.
Mm.
But
all they had to do was say Jesus' name out loud.
maybe they did, you know?
Yeah.
But she went in and got me a brand new Bible and gave it to me. And she said, there's a reason you're here, you know, and you got stuck here. There's a reason for everything, and I want you to have this Bible. I've still got it.
Well, that was nice. Yeah.
But that's the only time I've ever heard somebody seeing the devil besides that one.
Angie.
Oh, that's true. That is true. That's one she needs to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scared her to death. Anyway, I think we're done for tonight.
Oh. I might as well. Is it still running? Okay. I'll try and make this a little shorter. I was in the hospital, had a baby,
This is a good one.
and it was not my usual hospital where I like to have children. It was City Hospital because I had already we had the first one, and I didn't have the bill paid completely on the first one, and then I go to have the second one, and I said, or the third one, the second one wasn't completely paid for at the hospital, so I didn't want to run another bill, so I went to City Hospital.
And wasn't there another lady giving birth, and you said something about she doesn't know the Lord or something about religion? And it said, are you sure? Remember?
Oh, yes.
That's the eerie part.
That was when Denise was born. Yes, I had her at St. Luke's, and I was, for some reason, a little concerned about my health or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it come time for the baby to be born, I was a little afraid. And I'd had, 3 other kids already, and but I was a little bit afraid. And they had my bed in my room, was up against the wall, and I couldn't see it, but there was a cross on the wall right at the top of my bed, but I hadn't seen it. So I'm laying there thinking, boy, I could die tonight, and I got all those kids. What am I going to do? And then they came in, they checked me, and they said, yep, you're ready to go. Let's get her to the maternity room, whatever they call it, delivery room. So they turned my bed around, and as they did, I saw the cross. And I'm saying to myself, oh, you're worried about nothing, silly. This is a Christian hospital. They'll take good care of you. Don't worry. And I hadn't no more than thought it. It was followed up with this thought in my head. But I'd heard so much bad about Catholics, and this thought in my head was, but did they even know the way? Jesus, did they even know the way? And boy, I didn't get way out of my thoughts. Do you know the way? Do they know the way? I'm thinking. And God intervened. And this voice that I don't know where it came from, it was booming, but it was gentle. It was female, but it was male. It reverberated through my whole being and piled it into my head. And it said, do you know the way? Very stern. Do you know the way? And oh my God, that broke me. That just broke me down. I started crying and I said, I may die tonight, but that's okay because I know Jesus and He is the way. And they wheeled me on out. Oh.
No, it said, are you sure?
It said, yeah. It said, this happened like boom, boom, like a knife being thrown by somebody. It happened so fast. But do they know the way? Do you know the way? And this you know the way was very loud, firm, and not coming from my ears. I didn't hear it with my ears. I heard it all around me. Do you know the way? And then I said what I said in my head. You know, I may die, but that's okay because I know the way. I know Jesus. And that was it. That was the.
Then it said, are you sure?
Yeah. Are you? Oh, yeah. And it said,
You
are
told me
you
that.
sure? But it was the way that it was happening so fast, at the speed of thought. I didn't even get one thought until another thought, you know, hit me. And this last one, do you know the way? And are you sure? It was not coming from me at all. It was coming from the ether. And yeah, and when it said, are you sure? That's when I said, yes, I'm sure. You know, I am sure. And so it's okay. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die. I don't care. It's okay. And that was a little miracle right there. I've never heard such a, but since I've been watching those NDEs, I heard one woman say that almost identical thing happened to her. She was dispelling somebody else or some other entity, and God reproved her about it, like
Question her?
yeah, like what are you doing? They didn't think somebody was doing enough for God or something, and this voice said, what are you doing?
Like she's judging someone else.
Yeah, do not judge. You know, that was a do not judge. But, yeah, I feel sorry for everybody that hasn't actually had a straight out experience with God where He actually spoke, even if it's 2 words to them, so they know for sure. But, you know, in the Bible it says, blessed is he who don't have any proof and believe
Has to
with
go
their
on faith alone.
yeah, with faith alone. So I guess it's not really for us to have concrete evidence. Then we wouldn't be making a decision about Christ on our own. You know, we'd be doing it for selfish reasons. So
That's one way of looking at it.
well, God does say, you know, He give us full choice. We can make
Free will.
free will. Yeah, free will. And but it sure was reassuring, and I really thank God for it because I can openly speak about God, and it doesn't. There was a time when I was reserved about that, but I know I'm on solid ground, and I'm not bashful about it anymore.
Well, good.